Welcome to Beauty Business Matters. I'm Susan Routledge, your host, and today I have a guest with me who I've known for many years and who I feel like I've been sort of part of your journey, like watching all of the brilliant things that you have done from life throwing you a curveball. I first met Sarah through having a beauty business and through Beauty Directors Club. But then, as I say, there's so many different nuggets that are going to come out of this and lessons, I think, for anyone in business. But yeah, I just want to get straight into this, Sarah, because thank you, first of all, for coming and being a guest.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
And say, what you have achieved and how inspiring you are is, I'm sure it's just going to come out as we talk. So we've known each other, I can't remember how many years.
I can't remember. It's been so long, Susan. That I can't even remember how we first really met, to be honest, because you seem to have been a part of my life forever. It was actually well before Beauty Directors Club, so It was such a long time ago, and I can't even. I keep trying to rack my brains about how we actually met, but I can't actually remember that.
And we've done some exciting things, haven't we? We've been on trips together and all sorts. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But so if we can just go back to normal, when you're coursing along with the business kind of thing. So obviously, you started a beauty business way back. When was that?
Oh, gosh, when I was 19.
Did you go straight into business?
I did pretty much. I set up a mobile business, actually, originally at 19.
Like me.
So, and so that was the start of... It was like an organic growth that happened then over many years. It wasn't something that was planned. It just organically grew from sort of a mobile business into a home-based business, into then going onto the high streets.
The mobile business, that's when lightweight portable couches were out, which were never lightweight.
They were never lightweight. No, I must admit, I think when my back went, that was the end of my mobile business.
It was a great way to start a business, though. I started that way as well, because I think it's a great way to test to see whether a business is going to work.
Absolutely.
So how long were you mobile before you...
Probably about 6 years. I think, when I was sort of 6 or 7 years, I was doing some mobile work, and then I became pregnant, got married, got pregnant, and didn't really want to be lugging that big heavy couch around when I was 7 months or 8 months pregnant. So that's when I started navigating it into my home and, and sort of moving it forward from there.
And then from there, obviously, then you developed the business to grow a team as well?
So I grew a small team in my home-based studio, which was next to my house initially. So I had a small team there because we had a purpose-built studio built with 2 treatment rooms. And then it's probably about 12 years ago now, we went onto the high street as such, just in a sort of a residential local area near to where I lived, because that's where my client base mainly was. And I developed it up to... it varied over time, but I think probably the maximum I had was seven in my team. And probably when I sold it, we had 4 or 5.
Yeah. So before you sold it, obviously you were getting busier and busier.
Yeah. Although we had some hiccups with COVID.
Yeah. The hiccups.
We'll just call them hiccups with COVID,
Yeah, so obviously you'd built the team up, built the business up. COVID hit, and that's when things started to change, though, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, COVID for me was it was a bit of a lifesaver in one way, because I had been going through the previous few years. Now I recognise that I was in fight flight. I mean, I've been stressed for years, and not really knowing how to manage my stress.
Did you know you were stressed, though? Or was it just part of like, and I think this happens a lot where it becomes the norm?
Yeah, didn't have that mind-body connection. So I don't think I really knew. I was very much in my masculine energy. It was just life, that was how it was. That's how I was. And, so no, I didn't fully recognize it. Yes, I knew there were stresses, didn't know how to deal with them. So that was a difference, I guess. So it was just like, well, this is just me. This is just the way it is, and I don't really know how to deal with these stresses in my life. And so it's just, I think we create our own, now I've learned we create our own dramas a lot of the time. And so, and I created a lot of my own dramas, but I didn't recognize that back then.
And then would you say that when the pandemic hit and we got closed down, was that an ease for you, or was that an acceleration into more stress?
A bit of both, because what it gave me was the opportunity to start looking at myself, because everything starts from me. And that's what I wasn't quite getting before that. I think I was blaming everybody else. If something was wrong with the business, it might be the staff member's fault, it'd be somebody else's fault, it'd be this, that, and the other. And I wasn't really taking a deep dive into me. And it was starting that when I realised, you know what, I need to look at me here and what's going on. But of course, alongside that, we had to deal with the fact that how we were going to pay our team and, what was happening with furlough and learning all those things and opening and closing. And 1 minute we were opening and 1 minute we were closing, we weren't opening, and all those stresses. So I was diving into mindset, but I hadn't quite embodied it, shall we say. I was sort of getting it slightly intellectually, but there's a very difference between intellectualizing mindset and embodying mindset.
Yeah, and actually making it part of your life kind of thing.
Yes.
And so at what point did things change?
Just as we were due to go back, and I think if I remember rightly, it was the 12th of April 2021.
It was,
we were due to open up again, and hope was, it was really exciting, as an industry, being in the close contact nature of our work, it was so exciting. But at the same time, I've been thrown a slight curveball because my son was last minute getting married in the States, and I flew to Mexico because we couldn't. Long story, which I won't go into too fully, because otherwise we'll probably be here just focusing on that bit. But we had to fly into Mexico because we couldn't fly directly into the States. I can remember
all this.
And I got really poorly when I was in Mexico, and basically, I went into hospital in Mexico, told that the likelihood is you've got ovarian cancer. And that just blew my mind, as you can imagine. And I had to fly home. I missed my son's wedding. I couldn't make it. It still makes me emotional even now when I talk about it. And I arrived back, and of course the universe had definitely thrown me a curveball on starting back on the April the 12th, because then I had to leave my business in the hands of my team while I focused on my health.
Yeah. And obviously, did you get seen fairly quickly?
Well, I had to be, because I was so poorly, and that was the point. So actually, when I got back to the UK, I got taken into A&E. So I went through the A&E route because I was full of ascitic fluid, which was making me really sick. I could barely function. I was having migraines, and basically, so into A&E, into a ward, having a stomach drain. Sent home a few days later, went back in a few days after that because a tumour had probably burst, which it did by the time they got me on the table. Emergency operation, removed the tumours, and got confirmed at that point that it was definitely ovarian cancer. They didn't know until they got me on the table and did all the biopsies at the same time.
Because I can remember at that time, I can remember when you were over in Mexico, and obviously for me and for everyone in Beauty Directors Club, it just seemed so sudden. But to you, did it feel like that? Or had you felt unwell before? Or was it...
No, it was very sudden. It was extremely sudden. And actually, if this would give me just a slight opportunity, I think, if you're okay with this, for me to talk about the symptoms of ovarian cancer, because it is known as a silent killer. And actually, if you ask a lot of women, what are the symptoms of ovarian cancer? Women go, you know what, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'd had a COVID vaccination literally about 3 days before I flew out. Whether that's a coincidence and that highlighted my immune system had too much to deal with and it brought on the symptoms very quickly, whether it was the flight, whether it was other things, who knows.
Yeah.
But basically, by the time I got to Mexico, I was starting to feel a little bit bloated in the first few days, but that was it. I was just kept on saying to my daughter, I feel a bit bloated. And she was like, you're all right, Mum, I'm not exactly an overweight person. I said, it's not about weight. It's about, I feel a bit bloated. I just feel a bit uncomfortable. One of the other key symptoms is the fact that you can actually get full very quickly. So you start to eat and then you're just full. But that was a little bit something that happened with me anyway. I was never like a big eater. If I was full, I stopped eating, and I didn't recognise it as being significant. And I didn't, again, know the symptoms that I was looking for. But actually, a few days in, I started waking up in the night with really bad kidney pain that I hadn't had previously. I was bloating more and more. I ignored it to begin with because I thought maybe I just drunk too many cocktails, and as you do, when you're in Mexico, you're drinking the margaritas and stuff. And I just thought I'd lay off some alcohol, I'll rehydrate, see how I get on. And then within a couple of nights later, it was really bad again, and I started vomiting. And then I got this migraine. I couldn't move from bed. I just felt awful. And I actually remember ringing my son, who was in a different room, going, I don't know what to do. Suddenly your children become your parents. I don't know what to do. I can't move from bed. And he said, you're just going to have to call the hotel doctor. But everyone was so nervous because of COVID, you see. It was that thing, of like COVID. Do you call the hotel doctor? Do you get them to come into your room? So, of course, I did call the hotel doctor. She came in, she prodded me a little bit and said, yeah, you've got to go to hospital. So those are the main symptoms for me. But people actually often get ovarian cancer muddled up with IBS because it can cause constipation and things like that as well. Yeah. So people can get quite often dismissed. And often it can be in the later stages that it can be diagnosed because the symptoms can be missed for something else.
So with ovarian cancer, though, does it come on quite suddenly like yours?
No.
Or can it just be these symptoms going on gradually? And in some ways, the fact that you had that COVID jab, the fact that you had flown and things, in some ways that might be a blessing in some way because of bringing it on faster, because otherwise it could possibly have just gone on and you think, oh, I've got a bit of a bug or whatever kind of thing. But for it to all happen suddenly.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very grateful, actually. I'm grateful for everything every day, but I'm grateful very much for that, in terms of it coming on quite suddenly, because for me at that stage, it was contained to the ovaries. I had symptoms of quite advanced ovarian cancer, but actually it was contained to the ovaries. I did go on to have chemo, which was meant to be belts and braces. But as you know, the story does continue after that. So that was meant to be belts and braces just to mop everything up because the tumour had burst. But at that point, it was contained to my ovaries. But I did have those symptoms of very advanced ovarian cancer that I actually didn't have.
Yeah.
So, very grateful to have actually had that recognised.
And then from there, did you then come back into work or did you stay?
So no, I came back into work and I had a great 2023. In fact, we travelled. We went off to Amsterdam, didn't we?
Yeah, and, we had a great time. Abraham Hicks weekend.
We went to see Abraham Hicks. I was still very much following my mindset journey, and really navigating that. But I hadn't changed that much about my lifestyle. I was still probably drinking too much. I was eating similar foods. I was still very intellectualizing the mindset, still sort of following that route. So yes, I went back into my business and stress became a thing again. Yeah. And then it goes forward from there.
Yeah. So the thing is that I always say, you do have to listen to your body, because I think if you don't, your body at some point will stop you.
Absolutely.
And do you think that's what happened with you?
Yes. I mean, Amongst all this, I did have the diagnosis of having a gene. I've got the BRCA1 gene, which for those people who don't know is the breast cancer gene, but it actually increases your risk of ovarian cancer as well. So the statistics on that is something like about 12% of women will get breast cancer naturally. It increases the lifetime risk in somebody like myself up to about 70 or 80% of getting breast cancer. And with ovarian cancer, the risk, I think, is about 1.3% last time I looked, naturally, up to about 53%, I believe, with the BRCA gene. So it increases my risk very much anyway. But my very strong belief is around the epigenetics, around the fact that something will trigger the gene.
Yeah.
So, the external environment will trigger the gene. And for me, I felt that was lifestyle and stress.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I felt were my really strong triggers, because you start to get to know yourself and you think, something definitely triggered it. And I think that whole COVID period, or that stressful time, was very much an impact.
But as well, the thing is that I know you and I both huge into mindset and the belief that you can control what's going on in your life. The thing is that what I absolutely have always loved about you, Sarah, is, your determination in everything. And I can always remember, I'm not quite sure at what point it was in your journey that, because we were all going to climb Mount Snowdon.
Oh, that was still, I was still going through chemo. I was in 2021 and I was still undergoing chemo at that point.
And we had it in Beauty Directors Club, had this idea that it'd be good fun to climb Mount Snowdon in the dark with head torches.
Who came up with that idea?
I'm sure Millie had something to do with it as well. And the thing is that and you were determined you were going to do it, kind of thing, which you did.
I did, and actually I was told about 2 days before, because I was very uncertain actually whether I was, just because I was due to have chemo 2 days before the climb. But actually, when I got to chemo, they told me I was too ill to have the chemo. But
so you thought, I'll climb a mountain instead.
I'll just go and climb Snowdon, as you do. And I did.
Yeah. And I can always remember you were up the top, and then I think you just had that determination to get there.
Yeah.
And I can just remember you just you were way ahead of me.
I wasn't on the way down.
That's what I was going to say. It was as if you were determined to get there, and then your body went right, I've done that now, and got to get back down again.
Yeah, exactly. And my knee went, and I had to come down Snowdon backwards.
I know, and I can always remember with Dawn and one of the guides, and we were all back at the hotel.
Wait, wondering where I was.
with our Prosecco celebrating. And you guys, it was just when you actually came back, we had Dawn break dancing at the same time. But it was such an energy because at one point we were thinking, are you actually going to get back down?
I know, so did I. I thought I was going to have the helicopters out.
But then the next day you were back there, back to, anyone else would have probably.
Yeah, well, sort of.
Wow,
I did feel a bit rough for a few days.
Yeah, but I mean, honest, this is the thing though, but it just goes to show though, I mean, it's mind over matter, isn't it, kind of thing. And you've just proved that time after time. So obviously then, the BRCA gene and everything, you then went on for more treatment, didn't you, from there?
Yeah, I mean, not so much for the BRCA gene, sadly, because the cancer came back.
Yeah.
So I am in line potentially to have a double mastectomy at some point, but I have to be 2 years cancer-free before I can even consider that.
Yeah.
Sadly, it affected my whole family. I'd lost my sister to breast cancer back in 2010. She hadn't been diagnosed with the BRCA gene, but it materialised that her 2 girls both had the BRCA gene and went on to have preventative surgeries. And my own daughter ended up having a double mastectomy and is having IVF now to start her family so that they can actually stop the BRCA gene being passed down to the next generations. But sadly, despite the fact that actually my prognosis was very good, I hadn't changed. I don't believe I'd changed enough of my lifestyle. And actually 18 months later, I started to get sneaky little symptoms back, those sorts of things that we were talking about earlier. Started to get a little bit of discomfort in my abdomen, started to get a bit more bloated, started to just lose my appetite. And before I knew it, I was back. And I had a 7-centimetre tumour in my pelvis. Plus, I had nodules all over my peritoneum, and the prognosis really wasn't looking very good at that point. And I underwent chemo. I had a few rounds of chemo before I then underwent surgery. But if I backtrack a little bit, that's when I made the most changes into my life. I thought, you know what? I've got to do something here. I've got to take... My strapline is I help people take back their power and rise above cancer. And that's exactly what I had to do. I had to take back my control and my power and look at what I could do rather than just leaving everything in the hands of the medics. Because by that point, I was in a major trauma response. If anyone came near me with a needle, I would cry. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to do. And I was just so fearful for my life. So I looked at my diet. I worked with a nutritionist, and I worked with a lovely guy called Brett Moran, who I'd met in the previous year, who taught me all about meditation, taught me about visualization, just really got me in the mindset of healing.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing. I never connected into having cancer at that point. That wasn't my journey. My journey was a journey to getting well. It was all about a journey to healing and to being healed. And that was the messages that he taught me to give to myself.
Yeah.
And by the time I actually got onto that table and had the operation, my surgeon's exact words was, "You're a miracle." They didn't expect to find what they found. All the nodules on my peritoneum had gone, every single one. They didn't find a trace of cancer there, apart from the 7-centimetre tumour had shrunk down to 3-centimetre tumour and was hanging on by a tiny, tiny little thread. And they managed to just chop that off. And then I finished off some chemo, and I then maintained my lifestyle and my mindset and everything else that I really embodied at that point. I really integrated all my learning, and I'm still here 2 years later.
And we're both a great believer in the work of like Bruce Lipton as well, in the
epigenetics.
I can never say that word. But, and it's been proven time and time again, hasn't it? That, the power of the mind and like in meditation, like you say, visualization.
Yeah, visualizing.
Looking forwards, moving forwards with everything rather than like concentrating on what's happened in the past. And you are really living proof of that, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just love now that you have turned this into such good in helping to educate others as well. So,
yeah, you know what, Susan, I actually see having cancer now as my greatest gift.
Yeah.
It might sound really sort of ironic and what have you and weird, but actually it's my greatest gift because it really taught me how to live life differently. It's the only way I can describe it, to actually really embody this stuff, because otherwise I just would have kept on going.
Yeah.
I would have kept on going down this rabbit hole that I was going down. I never would have really taken responsibility for my life fully. I would have just still been in stress mode. And it led me to learn and train as a life coach, to really look at health and well-being in much deeper detail, just to embody everything. I sold my business, to actually de-stress, because I decided it was time for me to live my life.
Yeah.
And actually I didn't feel that aligned with it anymore, because all the treatments that I'd gone down the route of were very much focused on results, which was great. I was focusing on skin treatments, needling, I was focusing on peels. It was very much for me the surface level, how people appear. Mm-hmm. But for me, by that point, I was so much more back into where I'd started many, many years before, in that holistic sort of mode. And I wasn't aligned with those results-driven treatments anymore. That wasn't my passion. So I trained as a life coach. so that I could actually help people navigate their own cancer journeys. I try and help people when they've actually got a diagnosis, as well as move them on beyond afterwards when they also need hand-holding, because they can feel very lost after it can feel quite safe with all the treatments, and then they lose their way. But for me, because of that trauma that I mentioned earlier, where, somebody came near me with a needle and I just start to cry, I was having panic attacks and everything else, to have somebody like what Brett did with me to actually help me and take me and probably be a bit strict with me as well and say, Sarah, you can't focus on cancer. You've got to focus on your wellness. That's what I do. I help people just focus, and I call it a nervous system reset, basically, just help to calm people through meditation and breath work, and, teaching them tools that they can actually do that, as well as then bring in all my years of my beautiful massage therapy, which I'd always loved massage, and bringing it into more of an oncology setting, whereby it's more of a calming nervous system reset massage through touch therapy. And I'm just about to do a very exciting course, which is sound bowls on the body.
I know, I love the sound of that.
And Reiki I'm going to bring in, and some other really intuitive modalities to hopefully just create a really beautiful treatment for people.
It does feel, though, with our industry, yes, we've still got the results-driven side to it, but even on that side, there's a lot more well-being starting to come back into every element of, like, it feels a little bit like it, it feels like it's gone a little bit of a full circle.
Yeah.
The other thing I just want to touch on before we come back to that as well, how important was being out in nature? Because I know you changed your mind, your lifestyle totally, and you and James went off travelling.
Yeah, we did.
In the motorhome.
We actually lived in a motorhome for a while. We've just come back to a base again just recently.
Was that just to recenter or what was that?
All of it, because nature was massive. Getting outside, just being amongst all the elements, just really feeling at one with everything.
Yeah.
Not having that separation of I started hugging trees.
Yeah, doing that.
I'd take my shoes off and I would ground into the earth. That was all part of my journey. It wasn't always just the practical elements of the mindset and the nutrition. It was just grounding and being outside and taking that breath and slow it. I mean, one of the biggest things, I'm sure we're talking about other things later, but slowing down.
Yeah.
Slowing right down, and traveling gave me that opportunity to breathe, just to breathe and be at nature and be with myself. And really, because actually getting well was my full-time job. Mm-hmm. It was actually my full-time job.
Yeah. And what more important, but this is the thing, isn't it? Because, it's so easy to put yourself and your body the back and focus on things that really, at the end of the day, don't mean anything, because without your health, and without like a healthy body, and without a great mindset, that is what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the point. So so it really was. It was just, I had to take that time out. I'd been through so much in 2021 and 2023, and I came through, finished my treatment at the end of 2023. In February 2020, just at the end of 2023, we bought a motorhome. We'd had a small camper van, but that wasn't big enough for what we needed. We rented out our house, so we had some income from the house. I had another property that we rented as well, so I had a bit of income. I'd sold my business, so I had a bit of money from that. I was in a very fortunate position financially in that way that I recognise. And we were able to take a period of time out, and we literally just rented the house, got in our motorhome. I remember shutting the door. It was pouring with rain, and we shut the door and we're off. We couldn't go too far. We actually had to navigate around the UK, really, because I had to come back to Brighton for blood tests every month, and to be on a maintenance medication. So, going too far abroad was, but, we have a beautiful country.
Yeah.
And actually, talk about nature and all this, stuff. I was just happy being out in nature. We went to the New Forest. We went to Norfolk, Suffolk. We went up to the Farne Islands. We saw the puffins.
You came to see us.
We came to see you, we went to Ireland and we hiked Slieve Donard, didn't we?
Another mountain.
Another mountain. And, we spent about a month in Ireland, just traveling around and just being and just slowing down. And I say taking that breath, which, it's one of my most important messages to people, is to slow down and listen to your body.
So what does a daily routine look like for you now? Is obviously, I know you do your meditation and everything, but like compared to what it was like, what does a day look like, as in that you've slowed down and that you are now respecting everything you yourself?
Yeah, it does have its moments, I'll tell you, because I am still human. And last week things went a little bit off piste, but that's another story.
But then you'd be really aware of it, whereas otherwise you would just carry on with that, where now you'll be like, whoa, no, I need to stop this.
Because I listen to my body and I recognise when things come up, where I say I had a week like last week and things did go off piste, and I was having a bit of a patch of eczema coming up on my wrist, and my body was throwing every signal at me to slow down, and I paid attention. Yeah. And I slowed down, and my meditation had slipped a bit, and I'd actually, bring it back. Yeah. So now I try and meditate most mornings as much as I can, apart from when it goes off piste a little bit. Yeah. It does vary according to my days. I spend a lot of time with my grandkids. I love my grandkids. They're tiring, but they bring me a lot of pleasure. They really do. I have 3 grandkids, and just love each one of them dearly. And I do. Obviously, I do a little bit of beauty work on a self-employed basis in a salon. That's more just to help the sort of boost the financial coffers while I'm building up this help around helping people, the support, shall I say, for people with cancer. Yeah. Like today, I walked here from the station. Did you? Yeah, I walked here from the station because I wasn't going to get in a cab, because I was here at 1:45 and I had time, and I wanted to walk. Okay, it's along a main road, but I'm still walking. I'm still getting some fresh air. I've been sitting on a train. It could have been easy to have jumped in a cab, but I didn't. I make time to make sure I walk, and I'm very lucky. I live in Hove now, and I can walk along the seafront often, and I get in as much walking as I can. I eat well. Yeah. I've made sure I made myself something to eat to bring with me. A very sort of low carb, anti-inflammatory diet. This morning I didn't get so much time to meditate because obviously I was up a little bit early, but even so, I still spent 5 minutes just in bed doing a bit of breath work and just bringing that in, just be mindful before I jumped out of bed and got on with my day. Yeah. So it's those types of things. Even if you can't do full things, you can always find 5 minutes just to be mindful. I know. I can't remember who said it was but someone said, if you haven't got time to meditate, if you haven't got 10 minutes to meditate, you need to meditate for an hour. Exactly. It's so important. But it's certainly so important to me, because I just know how much different I feel. And like I say, last week I had a very stressful week with various things, and realised that I wasn't nurturing myself in the way that I could have been. And by coming back to my practice and recognising that, already I feel 110% better. Yeah.
And someone listening to this, I'm sure there's people listening going like, oh, I can't get into meditation. But to me, like meditation, it's not necessarily like sitting and 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 it's more to do with like you say, it can be just walking, getting out in nature. It's just having that, taking yourself out of the stresses and strains of a day, isn't it, really? And just having that time just to breathe, like you say, to breathe. So it doesn't have to, because a lot of people think, oh, I've tried it and I can't meditate. And it doesn't have to be the total switching off from everything. You can just be, like you say, slowing down and just...
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, I mentioned my life coaching qualification, but I did also train to do breath work and meditation, facilitating that as well. And one of the biggest things that I learned through that was remembering with meditation, because people say, I can't switch my brain off. And it's not, as you say, it's not always about that, because I think most of even the most Zen gurus probably, lose their way in thought in a meditation sometimes. The practice of meditation actually sometimes is actually just remembering to come back to the breath when you actually find yourself in a thought and not judging yourself over it. So, and actually you can also meditate on things. You might want to just sort of think about a particular thing. Or there's so many different forms, as you say, and it can be just be mindfully cleaning your kitchen. Yeah. But just doing it mindfully and just not, it's not going down a rabbit hole with your thoughts. So, if you notice yourself going down a rabbit hole, just to bring it back and to stop and again to slow down, take a breath and actually... Okay, and then you may start to go down another rabbit hole. And I've been meditating now for like 2 or 3 years, and I'm still going down rabbit holes. Most times I meditate, but I don't have any judgment over it. I just bring it back. Okay, I'm following that path. Why am I doing? Okay, let's just bring it back to the breath. And then it might not even be a couple of, it might only be 10 seconds. I'm going down. Bring it back to the breath. And it's a bit like going to the gym. It's awareness, and it's going, and it's like, it's training the brain all the time. Yeah. Just to remember to come back to the breath and not to follow that story, because we create so many stories.
Totally. Another thing, isn't it? Because they always say that, the stories that you tell yourself, 80% of it is just not true anyway.
Exactly. We do. Honestly, we are the biggest creator of our stories. I mean, what is about something we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. So, and that's what we do. We're thinking beings. And we can get lost in our own stories about the past and the future. What happened in the past? Well, the past is gone. The future hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. There's only now.
Yeah, there is only now. So we do have to bring it back to the now and not get lost in that rabbit hole of what ifs and maybes, because it's not really all that helpful at all. No. Obviously we want to make plans, and sometimes we want to have goals, and that's all fine, but I'm the living proof that actually goals can be thrown a curveball, and we have to be flexible with those anyway. So, it's, just relax sometimes and just allow the journey instead of actually trying to take control of everything.
So Sarah, with your, the work that you're doing now, how does someone get in touch with you can someone who is just very stressed get in touch with you, or does it have to be that they've had a cancer diagnosis, or what?
No, a lot of people have said that to me actually, is, why are you just focusing on cancer? And I'm like, well, we always try and have a target audience, don't we? But no, I'm actually coaching a couple of people who haven't got cancer, but actually have got quite a lot of trauma that they wanted to release in their lives, and one in particular is becoming quite ill, so it's preventative. Yeah. So it's about wellness, really. And I have wondered whether I should, sort of tweak it a little bit. But at the moment, my target audience is mainly people, helping people navigate this period of time when they're facing a cancer diagnosis, and to try and help them to navigate through in a very calm and, sort of, because if we reset our nervous system, then actually we increase our immune function. So by increasing our immune function, we can then face these treatments much better. But if everybody, as you said, can actually improve their immune function, we wouldn't get lots of other illnesses like autoimmune diseases and, even some other things like diabetes or whatever. There's lots of things that can be helped, by actually calming our nervous system right down. So, no, I'm all for helping anybody who feels that finds themselves in that space whereby they just feel overwrought, overwhelmed, they don't know where to go, their health is being affected, and that's where I can come in just to help them, take them by the hand, I feel like I take them by the hand and give them a big hug, really. Yeah. That's sort of the way I sort of see it, and actually then guide them in a way to actually take that breath and to slow down. And I do it through what I call my mind medicine movement, which is underlined by a SIPS framework. And the SIPS is about taking sips, taking slow sips. So SIPS, S for slowing down, I for identity, looking at our identity, not identifying with the illness, but identifying with wellness, looking at what our purpose is.
Yeah. And
then looking at our self-love, you know, because everything actually has to start with being kind to ourselves by giving ourselves a big hug, by validating ourselves is the word I think I'm looking for as well, because we always look for external validation from everybody else. Actually, we need to validate ourselves. We need to be respectful of ourselves. You know, I had to blow my grandkids out on Thursday because I got to that point where I was feeling a little bit, you know, as I said, last week wasn't so good. And I messaged my son on Wednesday evening, and I said, I'm really sorry. I said, I'm going to have to let you down on the grandkids tomorrow. I said, but if I don't let you down, I'm going to let myself down because that's where I am. Yeah. And I have to feed myself first, because actually we can't give from an empty cup.
Yes.
So it was about that self-love of giving something back to myself. So, so that's what, what I do. So, anyone can contact me. I have my socials. You can find me on Sarah Hurst Rising Above Cancer, Instagram and Facebook, and probably LinkedIn, but I'm not so good on that. And
we'll put all that in the show notes as well. So how do you do this though, Sarah? Is this like, one-to-one in person, or how do you do this?
So I do some online. So if people can't get to me, I can do online. Obviously I can't do the touch therapy, the massage side of things. So I can have a quick one-to-one session with people where I can teach them some tools, if that's if that's what they just want at that time. So I can spend an hour just teaching some tools that people can use on an everyday thing. But obviously, that's only going to give them some emergency care. I can do an online program where I can help coach them, which is normally a block of 10. And also, or they can come to me in person in Hove, so we can do that as well. Or my ultimate package is obviously people come to me and then I do the touch therapy alongside it. So I take them through a coaching session, sometimes with trauma release, and then I can actually, rather than sending them out after they've been doing quite a lot of work, about who they are, who they might want to be, releasing some traumas, because trauma is stored in the body, as we know. So by releasing it, I can get them on the couch and I can take them through a really sort of safe, nurturing treatment to make sure that they're really, really calm before they go back out into the world again. And I'm going to go just slightly off piste here, because I really want this to be mentioned, because we're talking about a beauty business matters. 96% of salons will turn people away when they're actually facing a cancer diagnosis. Yeah. So, and I'm really passionate about trying to change that. Yeah. Because it's such an important message to get across to anybody listening to this podcast within the beauty industry, to look at what you can do to help people when they're facing a cancer diagnosis, because it's 1 in 2. And how shit is it? Sorry, I might not be able to say shit on this, but
you're fine.
Cuss it out if you like. But it's how shit is it when you're actually facing it? To go into a salon and say, "Can I have a massage?" or just something along those lines, and then or a spa, and then they say, "I can't treat you."
But you know what, though, Sarah? I think this is from years of it being very antiquated. In that, when I did my training, and possibly when you did yours, contraindications everything was like cancer treatment. It was a contraindication. Nobody knew why.
Yeah. But we all thought that we were all told that, oh God, you might get it into the lymphatic system.
Yeah.
But actually, therefore, that person should be sitting on a couch then and not moving, because actually movement stimulates our lymphatic system.
And obviously there are certain treatments, but I mean, Amanda Winwood's done a fantastic job with Made for Life. And that's a treatment you've trained in, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the companies now specialise in too. But I mean, it is such a special treatment to be able to offer. And as well, training in something like that, it's not just for cancer treatment. It can be for someone who's just very sensitive
it's such a beautiful treatment.
Yeah,
it's the most beautiful treatment. I've done it for people who, even my husband, for example, I've done it on people who haven't got cancer again. And it goes back to that nervous system reset.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I love it. I love receiving it. I love doing it. There's just something so beautiful about the flow. And, and actually, if somebody's really stressed, to go and have, just some touch therapy, hand on heart treatment or whatever it may be, but it's the biggest way to give somebody that hug.
I was going to say, it really is made for life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's like made for anyone who's like needs it in their life, really. So it's fabulous.
So those are the ways. I went slightly off piece, but I just wanted to bring that bit in. But those are the main ways that people can work with me. Or they can just come for a massage as well. If people are local to me, they can just come and have that touch therapy treatment. If somebody's stressed or they are facing cancer, they can just come and have that as a standalone thing as well.
Yeah.
So I have various ways. My ultimate package, I love it when people come to me and I can do the one-to-one coaching and give them that hug and do that treatment for them. But this is accessible for everybody. And also, obviously there is an energetic exchange. Obviously, I do charge for my treatments. But I also say to people that if they're in a position that they can't afford something, let's talk. Don't just be put off because they may find that they're financially strapped because they don't know where they are because they're there's such an uncertain time.
Exactly.
Let's chat. And there's ways that we can work around things to make sure this is accessible to people.
Because it is. I mean, it's like it affects your income and everything, doesn't it?
It does.
Because obviously with the time away from work.
Yeah.
Sarah, this has been amazing. But before we go, I am going to ask you for a couple of golden nuggets on what you've learned through all of this, or what's the best advice you could give someone just at the end of this.
I think I've mentioned them already, but I'm just going to reiterate them really. I think the biggest one for me was slowing down.
Yeah.
Slowing down was my biggest, taking that breath, becoming present, not getting lost in the story. So that all becomes under that slowing down, that part, that S part, that SIPS framework.
Yeah.
Just becoming present with everything, just taking a breath. And then the other part for me was the identification, not identifying with having cancer. If you've got cancer, our body has an amazing capacity to listen to the messages that we tell it. Mm-hmm. So it's so important to give it the right messages. And to give it the right message, you have to send them through and you have to tell yourself you're healing. Visualization, if you look into the science now behind visualization, for example, there's so much evidence to show that actually there's not that much difference between a real life experience and a heavily imagined one. And so by actually sitting and getting into a space of closing your eyes, and even if you can't see it in big pictures, just affirming that I'm healing, because I don't see things in big pictures, and that's also fine. But you still can imagine, and you can give yourself the right messages and send everything through. So to say that you are healed, you are healed, you are healed, you are healed, instead of I've got cancer, I've got cancer, I've got cancer. It's such a different message, and
totally.
you can hear the energy within the two of them, So tell yourself you're healed and take a breath and slow down.
Yeah, Perfect. And if I can add one, listen to your body.
Yeah, exactly. Or because by slowing down, you'll listen to your body anyway. Naturally, that is the point, because you get that mind-body connection.
Yeah.
It's coming back into listening to our intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I could give you so many nuggets. Listening to your intuition, but you need to slow down so that you can tune into your intuition.
Yeah.
Because all the time we're running around in our masculine energy, which is what I was doing before 2021, and not listening to my intuition. And I am actually quite an intuitive being, as most of us are, especially in females. Actually, there's something that shows that we've got very intuitive brains. We just need, by slowing down, you can actually start to listen to the messages, look for the signs, and just bring in this. It just changes the whole energy about how you are.
Sarah, this has been awesome. And
Thank
I really
you. I could
mean
talk
that.
to you
It
for
has
hours
been,
about it.
It has been awesome. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for letting me come and share this really important message, because I think it is so important to get across to people.
I think for everyone, though, there's something you can take from this. You know, as I say, it's, you know, we just have to look after ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
You know, business is business, but like you as a person, there's only one of you.
Yeah, there is. And your business isn't going to run anyway if you're not around.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's just so important to just, So
thank you so much. Honestly, it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.